potluck night, what they called it.
Right,
They never
right.
called it, Mitzi never called it open mic.
It's still called potluck night.
Right, it's potluck night. It's the right name.
Oh,
So,
yes, it is.
Oh, boy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so I said to Steve, we were all standing around outside, I said, they give you 5 minutes, but I mean, is that enough time to really get them going? And Steve was about 6'2", and I'm 5'8". He just looks down at me and he very, very gently says, well, it's a fucking eternity if you're not funny.
That's
and
hilarious.
I just looked at him and went, oh, please, can we go over to the Hyatt here in the club? Tell me what a Hyatt. And he, if he didn't tell me that, I probably wouldn't be a comedian. I probably went up there and been a complete asshole and just said, fuck this, they don't know.
And you know what? That's exactly what happened the first time I did comedy at the Comedy Store. No, I did comedy in junior high school a couple times. But the first time I was in a club was Comedy Store in La Jolla. And I had that attitude where I was like, okay, my material's brilliant. It's going to kill. It was actually a comedy contest, and it was awful. The material
I was really lucky.
shit, but
I had never done stand-up in my life.
Right,
I was a musician. I was a singer. And I was in bands and all of this. And then I started to go to the Comedy Store, and I saw one guy after another, and I said, wow, this is a lot better than bands. I can deal with the 80 personalities in my head instead of the other 47 I got to deal with 5 other guys.
Right.
And when he told me that, I went home and I started to write an act.
Right.
I really tried to write an act and really timed it. And he said, if you got 3 minutes, do 3. If you got 4, there's no overtime. You don't stand up there taking a beating.
It's better to go short than go long.
Yeah, I still have the tape. I mean, I still have the recording of it.
Wow.
I was doing Richard Pryor doing the weather. And as Richard Pryor, I said the N-word. Nobody got mad because I'm doing Richard Pryor.
Right.
This is 1976.
Yeah.
My act was completely ethnocentric, and it still is.
Yeah.
But I got over, and it took me another 2 years to really know what I was doing.
Right.
And Mitzi actually at one point said, you gotta go somewhere else. You're not funny anymore. And that killed me. And then I said, I gotta go get funny. So I went everywhere else and wanted to get funny.
So she passed you and then took it away.
Right, took it away. And it was it was the best thing she ever did. And then luckily I got to study comedy again with guys like Mitch Walters and Biff Maynard and
now where'd you go?
Guys
to
that were,
the improv or the Ice House? Or?
I did the improv and I did the Comedy Store, and Bud began to give me spots, and then in the 78 Mitzi started giving me spots, and I got to thank guys like Blvd Simone, wherever you are. He's around. I mean, I just want to give him a shout out because he had a little place on La Cienega called Studio 3. And we could go play there on the weekends.
Right.
Me, Garry Shandling, this guy Tim Havey that was writing for people. It was a bunch of us, and we would go there on a Friday and Saturday night. And suddenly we're working to Friday and Saturday night crowds.
Right.
It was a bottle club. They brought their own, But that was that whole summer, and it was just the best. You got to figure out, and we would dress up and go do a real show. So by the time I was going to audition for her again, I was, I knew what I was doing.
How was Shandling?
Shandling was,
at a
was
bottle
funny.
club. So you saw Shandling. Shandling bomb.
He would bomb. This is what was really funny.
One of the greatest comedians of all time.
Yeah, he would come there, and he wanted to do stand up, and we were in our own little clique. I mean, it was me, the late Tim Havey, who wrote for Jackie Vernon and a bunch of people.
Okay.
Very funny guy. Another guy, Mark Goldstein, who's gone now, who was so funny off stage.
Right.
Then you get on stage, you wonder, what are you doing? But no, great guy. He was my friend. There was a bunch. I can't remember everybody.
Yeah. He's not funny,
a big
but,
writer. But Garry would go on, and we'd all go outside, and he'd be on to like the last 6 people that were left at the end of the night.
I can't even imagine this.
And Gary'd be up there, and finally one night he'd say, "Hey guys, he sits and watches us. This is shitty. Let's go." So we'd go in and watch him, and Garry would come off, and he would literally come up and go, "What'd you think of that? Was that funny? I don't know. How's my hair? Was my hair okay?"
Right.
Always about the hair.
Yeah.
And then right about the time I started to perform regularly at the store, Garry was starting to get spots at the store because Mitzi said, "You're a writer." Yeah, but I want to do stand-up. And son of a bitch, he was a funny man.
He was great.
A great, funny man. And to see him go from where we weren't even watching him to like, boom, just
right.
Because he was always writing for
Right.
TV shows and everything.
My old friend Richard Day wrote for the Garry Shandling show.
Oh, that was which one? Not Larry Sanders, the other one?
He wrote for both.
Both?
I believe so.
Because the first one on Showtime was great.
Yeah.
This is the Gary Shandling show.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the best.
That was such a great show.
But his stand up was
His stand-up was
when I
hysterical.
saw it was polished.
He's the only guy I know who would get away with a dirty joke like, yeah, so the other day I was in Baskin Robbins and the girl said, I said, what kind of flavors do you have? She said, well, we have this one, we have banana chocolate. And I went, oh, do you have banana in my pants flavor? And I'm on the floor, man. I mean, that banana in my pants flavor. And I wouldn't be surprised if he really said that to her.
Yeah.
Because he would say something in a manner that you go, oh, well, let me look. Banana in my pants, And I got to work with him in La Jolla. I got to work with him a lot. I worked with Gary a bunch. Mission Valley.
So you got to see him just go from okay to great, one of the greatest of all time.
Really funny. Then I didn't see him for a long time.
Right.
And I was at the Ice House. I was running shows at the Ice House. I was doing in the smaller room.
Right.
And he was doing the thing in the other room, and I went into the dressing room. So I stood in the door of the dressing room, and I'm saying, hey, Gary, how you doing? I was wearing a bowling shirt. And he looks up and he goes, who are you? He recognized me. And I go, oh, I'm the guy who works on your cars. And he goes, and he seriously goes, oh, you work on the Porsche or the Audi? Which one do you work on? And I went, I don't work on fucking cars, man. It's Joey. How are you? And he goes, oh, I never recognize you. So we sit down, we're talking, and he has two other young fellas with him that were, I guess, writers or whatever they were doing with him. And he looks at me and he goes, life's hard, isn't it? And I looked at him and I went, not for you. Life is hard. What kind of question is that?
But you saw all these comics at their embryonic stage. You saw Sam Kinison bomb. You saw.
I saw Sam Kinison bomb in Texas. I saw him bomb here because he was screaming and yelling, and he didn't have it. I mean, I've seen a lot of people bomb.
I mean, but you've seen people at the beginning of the career and develop them.
I've seen some of the greatest acts that ever eat the
Right.
bird, and that's what you do. I mean, that's what happens.
What about Chris Farley?
I never seen here with Chris Farley. If you remember the old what was that place we used to do
Groundlings?
wrestling shows there? No, it was in
wrestling.
Hollywood. Had a big dragon thing up on the. I can't think of the name. It'll come to me in a minute. And then they shut it down. But we used to do a wrestling show with Johnny Legend every month.
Oh wow!
Every month, Incredibly Strange Rock and Roll Wrestling.
Right.
And at one Saturday night, well, Chris Jericho would show up and all these different guys that were wrestlers when they were in town and hang out. And we do it. It was rock and roll bands and wrestling. And my manager character was L. Ron Farrakhan. And he's a mausoleontologist. He's buying up Hollywood Boulevard, and it's crazy. And my whole thing was unity through division. That's what I would preach. So I'm up there preaching one night. I'm doing my whole shtick, and all of a sudden I feel a huge arm around my shoulder and like weight, and I'm dropping, and it's Chris Farley. And he jumps on me, and he grabs the mic, and this man's doing God's work. And he's up there with me for like 20 minutes. If anybody out there has the video, please, please, let it out. Let it out to the world. It was one of the greatest things I can remember. And he was really partying. And it was about 2 months before he passed away.
Wow.
And,
He was brilliant.
He was. Moguls. The name of the joint was Moguls.
Right.
Moguls.
It had like 9 rooms. And when we would do a show, like Ian Whitcomb would come in the other room, and he'd do some music, and then he'd sell a bunch of records. And it would Eric Caden from Hollywood Book and Poster would have a whole thing set up with all kinds of stuff. And it was happening once a month. It was packed to the gills.
Right. I'll tell you what's happening is the Chinatown East.
Well, that's a happening
What a transition day.
I'm trying. There's so much to get to, and there's so little time.
We need a 7-hour podcast.
With you two, we do.
These two.
With you two, but there are 3 dead bodies at the Chinatown Circus. Tell us about all 3.
Well, first of all, I used to be a mortician.
Yes.
Wow.
When I was 20.
Can you do something for my crow's feet?
Yeah. If you come over, I'll give you 2 for. Yeah. So I know all the rules. Pre-1925, I don't need a permit. So 25 years ago, we had a freak show.
So if a body was dead pre-1925,
Yeah.
you don't need a permit. But
Yeah,
after
'cause it's like
1925,
an
you do.
antique. Yeah, you better have a permit after that. You look at Lennon. You know, it's like becomes
like old guns.
I didn't know. I didn't know that was a law. Did you know that, Hannah?
I was going to go to school to be
See,
an
she
electrician.
knew.
Oh, okay, yeah.
See.
So we're
Anyway,
more
basically,
just bonding here.
25 years ago, a freak show came through, and they were like, yeah, we got Uncle So-and-so on our ranch. I'm like, bring him down. And they did.
Yes.
And they come back every year and do another freak show, and we have another memorial service for Achille. His name was Achille Chatouillet. And he was a really crappy clown. He was like a drunken mess.
This is a dead
And he
clown.
wasn't even French. He just tried to get on the French, thing with the
Right.
Achille Chatouillet. But he died of chronic nephritis, which is kidney damage from drinking too much.
Oh, Jesus.
His last request was that he would always be on display. So they had him hermetically sealed in his casket in clown makeup, and he's wearing his Shriners Parade outfit from 1906 in Detroit.
Right.
You can go to our Facebook page and see a clip of the very first memorial service we ever did 25 years ago.
Oh, I gotta check that out.
Yeah, his casket's on the stage. People were performing in his honor. It was very somber. They're playing taps and everything. And the
Right.
family's like, ooh, faking it. And a magician gets up at the end and did some juggling because he loved juggling.
Right.
And he did it terribly, but the thought that counts. And then he pulls out a case and sets it on the stage and unzips it. And out jumps a live rabbit. And you can see this on a clip. And the rabbit jumps up on a stool, leans into the microphone, and says the closing benediction like a black preacher. Amen. Freaked everyone out. And you can see that clip on our page. It is so people were like, ah. What that really was a trick microphone that leaked yogurt, a trained rabbit, and I'm backstage going, hallelujah. Yeah, it was so great. So we do something like that every time they come back. Dear Lord. Yeah, it was
Wow.
really
Hysterical.
he's got a centerfold in the Ripley's book last year.
Right.
I have a wonderful framed certificate from Ripley's congratulating me on my corpse collection. Yeah. My mom is so proud.
I'm sure she is.
No.
Well, Ripley's a TV show got canceled because they filmed a year.
Well, that was the arm of Claude de Lorraine. It's a human arm in a shrine. It was on Ripley's with Dean Cain, and you're not supposed to photograph it. I didn't say that to them. And real quickly, it was Claude de Lorraine was a French nobleman, turn of the century, Paris. His wife was a singer, not too good, and she wouldn't sing during World War One, but when it ended in 1918, I will now sing, and she got on the Paris Opera stage and slipped and broke her neck, and he freaked out. He was in the booth overlooking the stage, freaked out and shoved his arm right through a window, and they had to amputate his arm. Instead of throwing in the trash, he enshrined his own arm. So this is the shrine of the arm of Claude de Lorraine. And
that's at the Chinatown East.
You're
That's
not supposed to take a picture of it.
Why?
I have not.
It's cursed if you photograph it. I don't know why. I've seen about 250 people take pictures in the last 25 years. I've never really heard of any problems.
But those people were never heard
I've never
from
really
again.
seen any of them again either. Yeah, and Ripley's is off the air. Oopsie. Yeah. But the thing is that you can leave something and get a wish in 24 hours.
Right.
I have a trunk load of stuff that's almost full.
Right.
We just redid that whole area, so we're going to bring it back and put glass over it so you can see 25 year worth of offerings. And people go, well, what's the deal? I go, well, there's two rules. The first rule is you have to be Chinese. No, I'm just kidding. No, the first rule is whatever you leave, it has to come from you. You cannot borrow it. And the second rule is you can never verbalize what you wish for ever. And in 25 years, I've never heard of anyone not getting their wish.
Very
They
nice.
can't verbalize it.
Right. Once you verbalize, it's
Except
over.
for 3 weeks ago when we I get my damn wet. I said, child, what did you do? And she goes, what you mean? I said, you leave something from yourself.
Right.
No. I said, That's your problem. I borrowed $1. We can't do that.
Yes.
There's Hello Kitty keychains, rings, watches, dollar bills. There's a human foot over there in the corner. Don't even want to know what they wish for that. Yeah.
Right.
And so people, if they want to do it, we have to do it all at once. Anyway,
Right.
The other two bodies real quickly are, I grew up in San Francisco, and I used to go to school on Nob Hill, drop down into Chinatown every day. Chinatown, San Francisco.
Right. It's the best.
It's insane. It's
Yeah.
like makes this one look like
It's
not
the
very
Chinatown
fun.
of the United States.
It's gorgeous.
It's
Anyway,
the original
yeah,
Chinatown.
well, pretty much, yeah. And actually, the real story with that is in 1906 when the earthquake happened. It didn't look like it did now. It was all like just regular, and they were just there, But what they did was they got American architects to look at designs of temples, and they rebuilt Chinatown in 1906.